Fresh out of the box, not a single component in place yet. Cable management is already on point. Is this PC building in easy mode, or has the Cooler Master TD500 Max just complicated things? Let's find out. Hey guys, CJ from Elevated Systems introducing the Cooler Master TD500 Max. The Max might sound like this case has gone supersized, but it's not about the bulk, it's about the extras. Echoing the NR200P Max, the TD500 variant boosts your build with a pre-installed 850 watt power supply, a beefy 38mm thick front-mounted 360 AIO. Cooler Master has taken on the challenge of streamlining the most daunting phase of PC assembly, cable management. If you're not adding hard drives or SSDs, you won't even have to think about the right side of the case. Say goodbye to the tangle. The cables are pre-routed with all the power connections neatly integrated into the motherboard tray on the left, ready to hook up using the provided short extensions. But the real question is, do these features actually simplify the building process, or are there hidden complications lurking? To uncover the truth, we're going to have to build a PC in the TD500 Max, but not before we walk through the specs and features of the case and its included components. The Cooler Master TD500 Max is a mid-tower ATX case and measures 499mm in length, 210mm in width, and 500mm in height. It's ready to cradle mini ITX, micro ATX, and ATX motherboards. Within its frame, it can accommodate graphics cards up to 380mm in length and 165mm in width, including the power connections. However, there are some considerations I'll touch on as we move through this review. The case is airflow focused. The TD500 Max boasts a CF 120mm ARGB fan at the rear for exhaust. The top is flexible, supporting either 3 120mm or 2 140mm fans. For dust mitigation, removable filters on the top and bottom have you covered, while the front panel sports an integrated steel mesh filter for breathability. You'll find 7 replaceable bridgeless PCIe covers to streamline your build. Storage options include a removable drive sled at the base for 2 3.5-inch hard drives and 1 2.5-inch SSD, plus there are 2 slots for quick SSD mounting. The front I/O includes a 20 gigabit per second Type-C port, a headset jack, 2 5 gigabit per second USB Type-A ports, and an LED controller. Now for the TD500 enhancements. The case itself remains familiar. It's the TD500 Mesh V2 that's been around for a while now, but let's dive into the Max specific perks. It debuts in an exclusive gray colorway, and the cooling system is leveled up with the pre-installed ML360 Atmos Max version, boasting a 38mm thick radiator, a generous upgrade from its 27mm predecessor. Paired with 3 premium Mobius 120p ARGB fans. The fans are mounted at the front, optimizing interior space, and the AIO is strategically placed with the tubes downward, the ideal but often unattainable orientation. Cooler Master addresses this common AIO challenge with extended tubes, ensuring CPU reach and graphics card clearance. Joining the AIO is the GX2 850 watt ATX 3.0 gold rated power supply, installed and innovated with 2-stage power cables. Stage 1 cables are pre-routed to pass-through connectors on the motherboard tray. Stage 2 short cables make clean connections to your motherboard power inputs. There are 2 8-pin EPS connectors for CPU power, a 24-pin ATX connector, and 1 8-pin PCIe power connector. Plus, there's a PCIe Gen 5 450 watt 12 volt high power cable pre-routed for compatible graphics cards. And to tie up the cable management, a SATA powered fan and RGB hub with all the fans pre-connected. As for the price, at the time of filming, the Cooler Master TD500 Max hits the market at an MSRP of $399 US. Now, this is the part of the review where I typically go over the materials and build quality of the case. However, the TD500 Mesh V2 has been around for a while now. There are several reviews of it out there. I've built in it before, and as far as I can tell, other than the two-stage power connectors, nothing has really changed with the case. So let's just jump right into the build experience, because a smooth and easy build is what a system like this should be about. However, for some, there will be some challenges. Right off the bat, I appreciate Cooler Master's choice to stow the case screws in the often not used PSU window. It's a convenient storage location. My ATX motherboard slotted in without a hitch, and the short second stage power cables connected smoothly. However, they are a bit bulky, and I don't think these present as neat of appearance as can be achieved with traditionally routed braided cables. The TD500 Max comes armed with all the necessary AIO mounting hardware for Intel's LGA 1200 or 1700 sockets and AMD's AM4 or AM5. Installing the pump block on my AM5 socket was a simple 3-minute procedure. But even with the pre-routed power cables, there's a bit of cable wrangling left, hooking up the front panel I/O. That means guiding and connecting the 20 gigabit per second USB-C, USB 3.1, HD audio, power, and LED cables. There was also an extra connector on the hub ready to accept the AIO pump block's ARGB cable. Now, installing a graphics card might be where some builders hit a snag. My 312mm RTX 4080 Super slotted in comfortably, steering clear of the AIO tubes. Yet, with beefier cards, you've got to watch out. Those tubes mustn't brush against the GPU, which can run hotter than the tube's max temperature tolerance. You're not at risk of melting the tubes, but that heat will significantly accelerate liquid permeation from the cooler. The AIO's generous tube length spared me this concern, but when I went to plug in the 12-volt high power cable, I hit a snag. The 90-degree connector was inverted. It meant removing the card and rerouting the cable from above to align the pins correctly. Not the look I was hoping for. Here's where I hit the real hiccup though. Suppose you're not keen on using a 90-degree high power connector and prefer your GPU's included adapter. For my card, that requires 3 8-pin connectors, but the TD500 Max provides just one. And while the PSU has spare PCIe power ports, Cooler Master doesn't supply the additional PCIe power cables. This is a glaring issue, especially for those with modern AMD or Intel cards needing more than a single 8-pin power connection. Another area that could have been improved is the antiquated tab and slot fastening of the rear panel that requires basically laying the card on its side to line up and press and slide it into place. The rear sliding dust filter is also an inconvenience. Everything's assembled, so let's talk about performance. I typically lean on an air cooler for thermal testing because it really puts the case's airflow to the test. And let's be honest, any decent 360mm AIO should handle the heat even from high-powered CPUs with no problem. Since modern CPUs tend to boost and hit their thermal limits quickly, regardless of cooling, judging an AIO's chops by the max temperature alone is a bit antiquated. A more relevant measure is how efficiently an AIO maintains a steady temperature. Take my Ryzen 7600X for instance. Under load, it shoots up to 90 to 91 degrees Celsius and then levels off between 80 and 90. Now, with a standard 360mm AIO, I'd be nudging fan speeds to 100% as temps approach 95 degrees. But with the Atmos cooler in the TD500 Max, I found I could set the curve at an 80% max RPM, set a mere 20% for typical idle temps, and it's so quiet it's practically inaudible, with full load noise is hitting just 44.5 decibels, and that's against a background noise level of 40 decibels in my studio. Swapping in the Ryzen 9 7900X 3D, it was a similar drill. Thanks to its more even heat distribution, I managed to set the fan max RPM to only 60%, keeping the system almost silent even during intense gaming sessions. while keeping temps between 60 and 70 degrees with occasional spikes maxing at 75°C. That thick 38mm radiator and the high performance Mobius fans are key here. The Atmos Max version has to be the best feature of the TD500 Max, and it may be the best AIO currently produced. The closest rival is probably the Arctic Liquid Freezer 360. I haven't tested that one myself, but on paper, the Atmos Max should outperform it just based on the much better Mobius fans. Now, when it comes to the GPU thermal performance, it's a different story. Due to the single exhaust fan and the AIO position, heat builds up quickly inside, causing my RTX 4080 Super to operate about 10 degrees hotter than in other airflow focused cases using air cooling. One option is to fit a couple of fans on the top to help pull out the hot air. This step alone can bring those GPU temperatures down quite a bit, or you could take the route I prefer. Relocate the AIO to the top and get three 120mm fans up front. The case has plenty of clearance, so even with the Atmos Max 63mm of total girth, it fits on top without interfering with the VRM heat sinks or the RAM. And just for the record, good airflow trumps everything. With a steady flow of fresh air, your AIO's cooling performance won't be affected at all, even if you reposition it. It's all about managing that air movement efficiently. Before we wrap up with my final take on the TD500 Max, let's break down its value. The case hits the market with an MSRP of around $400. Time for some quick math. The TD500 Mesh V2 stands as a solid $100 case. The GX2 PSU last retailed for about $140. The slimmer sibling of the Atmos Max AIO is priced at about $150, putting our subtotal at $390. Throw in the upgraded Mobius fans at $30 each and the near complete cable management setup, and it's clear the price is more than fair. But is this case the right move for those aiming to streamline their PC build? That depends. If you've got an older or entry-level card that only needs a single 8-pin connector, or if you're running a newer NVIDIA card, then yes, this case is a solid pick. However, for anyone with a card like my RX 6750 XT that demands more than one 8-pin power connection, Cooler Master hasn't given you much to work with, and that's going to be a deal breaker for many. A bit of full disclosure, Cooler Master sent me this case to review a few weeks before it hit the retail shelves. They don't get a preview of this review or any say in what I'm telling you now, but when I noticed the PCIe power limitation, I flagged it with them. They're looking into it, but unless future me has dropped into the video with an update by now, it means there's no solution just yet. So as we close the book on this case, remember that tech is all about the fit. What works for one build might not work for another. The TD500 Max stands out for certain setups, especially if you're after that exclusive cooling solution and want to dodge the cable management headache. But for others not opting for a new NVIDIA card, this will likely be a hard pass. Thanks for joining me on this tech journey. If you found this review helpful, hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Stay tuned, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.